could talk a little bit about, obviously with your experiences in your books, you talk a lot about animal images. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot to talk about that. Could you first, in the books, you also analyze Hillman and Giegridge's
the
dialogue about these images, but also in the greater context, sort of old kind of relics, sort of say, of the past psychologies, and them being somewhat obsolete. And you could argue that I think you do argue that we've sort of lost that connection to animals and natures as we did in the past. Our psychology is different, but yet you are receiving images of the animal perhaps in a new light. So I wonder if you could first just talk about, I mean, you've also mentioned Kundalini but you can mention Kundalini, but at the same time talk about how these are not you weren't interested in sort of interacting with Kundalini from a sort of past psychological perspective.
Using the concepts of the past.
Using the concepts of the past.
Right.
So yeah, I wonder if you could first just talk about what's happening there. Why? What do you mean, and why can't we? Is there value in some of these past traditions, past connections to nature and old traditions, old concepts? But yet they emerge. Sometimes they can emerge in the modern day context or the modern day psyche.
Yeah.
And what's going on there?
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
First of all, I fully subscribe to the past being a treasure. The treasures of the past. The wisdom of the past is so. Myself included, dreamers can have many visitations from the objective psyche that are wrapped in images that we know are historical. So, like the Kundalini, they are real and they are historical. So in that sense, they're ontologically irrelevant to what's going on in our technological civilization. They can be deeply relevant to the person and their psychological development. But basically, if you talk about, for example, a shamanic practice of ecstatic flight, becoming a bird and meeting with another shaman from another tribe in the bird form and exchanging, having a conversation. And if you say, if you go out today and say, well, I did that, you're not going to get much of a hearing. Unless you go into specialized circles, where people might have had those experiences too. But in terms of the mass media culture or the internet culture, if you try and get a job on that basis, you're not going to have much luck. You're not even going to be considered intelligible. So there's a real distinction to be made between how the objective psyche is appearing to this or that individual, and what work may come out of that for the individual, and what is dominating the world culture at this time, the soul aspect of what is dominating the world culture. And to understand the soul aspect of what's dominating the world culture, you have to use its language. Cosmological physics, quantum physics, neurobiology, economics, statistics. If you don't use that language with the soul's eye open to it, how does that express the phenomenon of soul life in the civilization? You won't understand what the hell's happening. That's the language. That's why I've spent decades I'm so grateful to my undergraduate studies, in physics and mathematics, because I had a good base to diving back into it some decades ago, but with an eye to catching up to all of those vocabularies again, but now with the soul's point of view. What are they saying about soul movement using cosmological terms or black holes, the speed of light, relativity, all of those terms in physics, which are well accepted, also have a soul aspect, but you've got to know how to read it. So I spent some decades reawakening my interest in physics and mathematics, which I've got a big interest in, but with my newly acquired stance of looking for the soul aspect, and that's a lot of my books and essays are showing how our technological soulless civilization, in fact, is reflecting soul in the language of the technological civilization. That's where you'll find it, in the language. You'll find soul, the soul movement, the modern soul. What's the soul moving towards today? And that's one question. And there's also the question of the soul as it's appearing to the individual dreamer and so on. They're not separate, but they do need to be distinguished, I think. And that's where Hillman and Giegerich were having their differences, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
That Giegerich was really speaking for the soul of the technological civilization. What he means by that is there's a general recognition that interiority or soul life is reflected in language today. That's where it's gone. So that's why it seems to have disappeared, because it's no longer in the appearances. It's in the very language itself. And so that's what you have to learn to open yourself up to the soul life in language, and that goes along with the idea, very widespread idea, that the world we live in is a linguistic world, and that's really, really an important idea to get at soul life. We're in a linguistic world. So as far as animals go, the psyche is no longer reflected in the life of this or that animal, which it once was. For example, Joseph Campbell talks a lot about this in his wonderful books on mythology. He'll talk about New Guinea natives, for example, would have in a pen, and he would be considered a very rich man because he had a boar, a pig, a male pig, in that pen, and it was imbued with soul life, that particular pig, because its horns would come out and might even pierce its jaw, but it was the moon. So it was highly symbolic, and it was going to be sacrificed. So that's an individual animal carrying the mana of soul life in that particular animal. So Giegerich would compare that practice with our practice of shoving them through processing, terrifying processing on a mass scale, where the only ontological significance they have is processed meat. You don't get anything else. In our attitude towards animals today, other than what the language says, that processed meat, resources, you harvest them, That's it, that's the language. We don't talk about the sacred salmon anymore, we talk about the harvest of salmon. See, that language betrays the public soul life, if you like, in our attitudes. So so that's going on at the global level. At the individual level, as you know, an an individual can be thunderstruck by a totally different experience of animal life as it's appearing in one's dreams. And I'm not inclined at all to think of that as a relic from the past. I'm saying I think something's happening with the emptying out today of empirical animals. They're disappearing. They're being extinct, and we may be there not long after. But the rate at which animals species are disappearing, it does raise the question: can anything? Is there a response from that greater intelligence, the objective psyche? Is there a response to that annihilation of what took millions of years to come to pass? I think the way animals are appearing in animal dreams, I think that there is something happening there, because about reawakening the animal life in us, and it's had a profound effect on me, and I feel it's altered my very behaviours. So the insistence in my coming to terms with my animal life, what I share with our animal brothers and sisters through the incursion of these dreams, is that I'm just much more aware of what my body wants. My body's not a suitcase that I lug around with my will. That's why I don't travel much. That's why I don't go out much, because my body may not want to. I actually pay attention. So there does seem to be that movement. The technological attitude towards animals and animal life is leading us out of humanity into some other form of intelligence that has absolutely nothing to do with humanity. So that movement is terrifying, but this counter movement where we're being asked, or many of us are being asked to think of ourselves differently from what the technological civilization is wanting to produce. They're both aspects of the soul. It's how we relate to them. Instead, there seems to be more of a movement of becoming a more complete being that includes the animal and the mind, and in some new kind of unity, where I think it has something to do with the body, the matter of the body itself becoming conscious, which is a very weird thought. It's troubled me for decades, but I think that's what might be trying to happen through the individual, awakening the matter of the body into its own consciousness. We don't even have a language for that at the moment, but I've had enough dreams to point to that happening. So that can only happen through individuals. What's happening in the technological civilization doesn't require individuals at all. All that's required, as Gingrich put it, what does the internet want of us? It just wants us to turn it on. That's it. It'll do the rest. Because the individuality's disappeared there at that level.
I was going to say another thing, but I was just reminded of what Robert Svoboda, how he talks about fire, the element of fire needing us to sort of spark it. Obviously, it can happen spontaneously, maybe some bolt of lightning, but it constantly needs kind of stimulus to keep going. And so there's this relationship where the fire and us have developed over time. This mutual relationship. I wonder if the internet and technology is almost like a new element, It's
A new element in what sense?
in the sense of, fire, water, space.
Oh, and you, that's an interesting thought. Have you followed? Have you?
No, it just occurred to me right now.
And I would certainly say a new way of being.
A new way of being, for sure.
So you have these two movements that seem to be going on, where the co-creating idea, engaging the intelligence of the objective psyche as it appears to an individual, where we do seem to have an indispensable role in what comes forth through us. That's a movement, but also you've got this worldwide movement that's saying, look, basically we can do without you now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what AI is starting to say. We don't really need you. We just need you to turn it on and then piss off. We can do the rest. That's staggering to get. I mean, the polarity between the two is staggering. But they're both there. And they seem to be on parallel tracks rather than enduring the conflict between them. It's quite a conflict, but it's a meaningful conflict if you take it on, or if it's given to you to take on. But many movies are talking, many art forms are talking about that we seem to be really dispensable in terms of what's coming through. What's developing through the technological civilization. Even now, Mark Zucker, Facebook, is talking about humanized AI. Yeah? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What are we needed for? That question is very much up there, and so many art forms are addressing that. What are we needed for? This technological doesn't need us, or at most, as the famous Matrix movie said, we just need it as batteries. That's it. These are art forms that are expressing a possible future. They're getting that idea from the psyche. If you want to go this way, this possible future could become actual, and it is. It's happening real fast. While at the same time, other individuals are getting these very strong messages about the need to integrate the animal body, the animal self, our own bodies. Something's trying to wake up within matter itself, and it's really marginalised, that movement, but it's there. I belong to it.
Because sometimes it can appear, and forgive me if this is wrong, but that in some sense, you're more interested in obviously the wider soul movements, the implications of the sort of psychology of the masses, and then so almost like this is almost wrong now. I was going to say denigrating the individual's experience, but at the same time, there's tremendous value in almost again going back to that word, a co-creation between that individual and the psyche, and that being also important to
hold both. That's been my task, to hold both as they appear within my being, and that's hasn't been an easy job, but not to value one over the other. They're two inflections of the same mystery that's trying to come forward.